Pardon?
I don't know, I think somebody has.
Oh, I have.
I do.
Hi, Eric. How's life treating
Well,
you?
I'm so sorry. I missed you the other day.
It's okay. Life happens like that.
I was,
Would it help if I came pick you up?
it would, at this point, I'm not gonna fly right away. I'll keep about 3 minutes and don't have to kind of keep. My
Well,
head
you-
very,
You know that difficulty of transportation doesn't mean we don't want you, but if you want to stand back for a while and be a part of the subcommittee and stuff, that's your choice, but
Yeah,
it's your, you know,
I'll apply soon.
okay.
There another,
I can get in here in these meetings, but, because we live down the street from each other.
What happened? So.
yeah, I thought I would look at Wi-Fi phone calling access.
Didn't you get the hearing? I thought I had that. but I guess-
Facebook messaging people going, can you call?
Usually
We're having half an hour.
Great, thank you.
My husband
And
is.
try and make sure.
I was out on the backside of the said, oh, you can get on the Wi-Fi and call from there and just did it.
I know, my husband's a pen thief. I teach him.
I always throw one in my bag, just in case I don't know. Does it work there?
Yeah, sure, we're great.
Okay. Yeah, just, I always throw it in and I never get sick. Oh. One.
I don't remember. She texted somebody during that meeting. I don't. Nancy, yeah. Well, right.
No, it's coffee.
We have, how many official members do we have? 7? What?
10.
I counted 4 vacancies, am I right?
There's 5, Gardner's last year.
Okay,
So we need 6 people.
okay, thanks.
So, like that.
Yeah.
Is that our new sweater, Mr. Fong? That our new sweater looks good on you.
Oh, no, it's older.
I don't imply that your other clothes don't.
Thanks.
Like,
You know, it's Humboldt, you have to like, you know,
Layers.
yeah, layers.
Yes.
I've got a few.
Layers.
Layers upon layers.
Right.
Did you ever read Mountains Behind Mountains? Okay, just, when I said layers upon layers, it made me think of that. Mountains Behind
It, I
Mountains.
think Tracy.
Yeah,
about
Tracy did.
all,
Yeah, that's the one, yeah.
you know, everything.
Yeah.
I've read.
Because I just finished reading one of his books, and it's called A Truckload of Money. It's,
I didn't read.
the guy, the man, it's about the founder. It's about this Texas stuff. His name's Paul Humboldt, and he founded kayak, which is travel.
Yeah, that's okay. I know Joe said that.
And some other things in Boston.
Connectivity
And then
issues.
Yeah.
the other
Wi-Fi
thing is, I read excerpts long.
Oh, okay.
I didn't read papers.
He was like, messaging people going, can you call this number?
Russ.
My daughter. and so,
Well, it's
oh,
about,
she gets
it's about the
message.
home. Takes care of the home.
Oh, well, yeah, that's okay.
Great story.
Yeah, we
I
don't
only
try
read
to
one.
times there. No, 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 no. The only thing that I really consider is.
That's right.
Council for the changes, like we went back and forth a little bit, and so I think they're ready to send to you.
Yeah.
So I'll just send them like just for the bylaws, yeah, so. Well, what they did was, just what I already said was they put in more detail about the.
So, yeah,
Because they felt like that was missing. So it's not necessarily changed in terms of what we do, it's just more information clarifying details. So I'll send it to you and then, you guys can take a look and we can talk about it.
And he made a comment, since he's working again,
Yeah, yeah, for sure, 100%. Sorry.
John?
Yes. And then, you know.
Good, you
On those sides, hey, people have to make some not as many, so like this would be a yeah, exactly, that's what I think. Yeah, exactly, no, and hopefully we'll get it done, but anyway, I'll send it to you, this, I'll send it to you. And you can take a look and talk about it.
A lot of other pieces. Can't have, they can't sit away from.
Laura, may I ask how support is doing? Okay. Make sure she's doing all right.
You're always looking good, you dress very well.
You're right, just your.
Medical thing.
Some information.
In here.
I was one of those crazy people that's doing a SkyWest, you know, thinking it sounds great, you could fly.
I swear there's like a
Anyway,
disconnect.
yeah, at the airport. It's not looking as much fun as I thought.
Yeah, I know, right?
Right, like where they just did. Yeah, it's fine. I can't get out. Still in there? I guess I knew that.
That's what
Congratulations.
I don't know if it's congratulations or not.
Oh, okay.
I'm gonna do stuff in the belly of a plane for 6 months.
Yeah, that's not a good place.
Yeah, the more I go through this training, I'm thinking. The belly of
I'm not sure.
She just got a job with SkyWest.
Oh.
It's not her first choice, so I hear her saying so.
Yeah.
So I was looking for something.
These days it's time for questions to show.
Was that official? Can we talk about?
All right, everyone, it is 12:15. Thank you for being here. I'd like to call the Humboldt County Behavioral Health Board meeting to order. I'm Laura Montano, the chair. Welcome to the monthly BHB meeting. We are the advisory board for the Board of Supervisors. We hold this meeting on the fourth Thursday of each month, and it runs from 12:15 to 2:15 at the latest. We meet in person at 507 F Street in Eureka. This is a public meeting and everyone is invited to attend. Members of the public may participate remotely. The minutes and the agenda can be found by Googling Humboldt County Behavioral Health Board. I don't know why that makes me laugh every time. Googling. You will find such information within a list of committees. We provide time for public comments early on in the agenda. Public comments need to be limited to 3 minutes and pertain to matters related to behavioral health. We ask you to make your comment in a respectful manner. Please note that this meeting is being recorded. Please contact me or any other of the Behavioral Health Board members if you have questions about our work as a board. And with that, Joe, if you do the roll call.
Alyssa Norman. Speak up. Alyssa Norman,
Oh, hi. Here.
Laura Montana,
Here.
Natalie Arroyo,
Here.
Virginia Bass.
Here.
Tim Doty. Here. Debbie Hartridge,
Here.
Jeanette Kellerman excused, Vernon Price,
Here.
Oscar Magoli, Catherine Smith excused.
Yeah.
Yep. Four.
And now you can do an introduction of staff and guests. Let's just start to my right, go around.
Hi, Emmy Boxman Rogers. I'm the Behavioral Health Director. Nice to see everyone.
I will be on.
Paul.
I'm Paul McNackey, Deputy Director of Behavioral Health.
David Eichenbaum with the Youth Advocacy Board.
Alex Torres, I use they them pronouns. I'm a peer coach for the Humboldt County Transition Age Collaboration.
Sean Berger, I'm a parent of a consumer.
Eric Thompson, guest today.
Marguerite Stewart Nathan, I'm a guest and hopefully a member one of these days.
Good afternoon, I'm Oliver Gonzalez, I'm a program manager for behavioral health. I'm for the Mental Health Services Act, and I'm also the Ethics Services Manager.
Me next. You next.
Connie Beck, I'm the Health and Human Services Director for the county. Good to see everyone. Hi, good to see both of you. I'm Kat Solomon, Budget Projects Analyst for the Behavioral Health. Laurel Johnson, DHS Analyst in Administration. Good afternoon. Laura Holter, Administrative Secretary for Behavioral Health.
Joe McGrath, Executive Secretary for Behavioral Health.
And then we can go on to Zoom, just popcorn each other, starting with Jack.
Hi, everybody. My name is Jack Brazil, Deputy Director for Behavioral Health, and I'll pass it to Nancy.
Hi, I'm Nancy Stark. I'm the Legislative and Policy Manager for Humboldt DHHS. I'll pass it to Sonia.
Hey everyone, Sonia Levy-Boyd. I supervise the Humboldt County Transition Age Youth Collaboration and the peer coaches at the T Division, and I use she, her pronouns. And I will pass to Sarah S.
Hi, I'm Sarah Scaff. I'm here with Cal BHBC. I'm interning for them, and I'm here along with Teresa Comstock as well. We're just listening in today, and we'll be posting some information in the chat about our April meeting and training. Sorry, I'll pass it to Teresa.
Hi, just listening in. It's good to see everybody. And Cal BHBC is California Association of Local Behavioral Health Boards and Commissions, and we're just here to support you. We will have a newsletter coming out soon and invitations to our April 19th and 20th meeting and training as well. Thanks.
I'm the only one left. This is Suzanne Rye. I am the clinic manager for the Eureka Clinic of North American Mental Health. And I'm just trying to get integrated into any county organizations that we can to see how we can help support and learn from you guys.
I'll go Victoria Kelly, Redwood Community Services. I'm the CEO.
Hi, Christine Messenger, DHHS Communications.
Is there anyone else? All right. With that, we'll move on to, are there any adjustments to the agenda? None, we will stick with it.
I think I was tasked to get information or presentation about the behavioral health bridge housing, and I did not do that. So, I mean, I can talk about it a little bit, but I don't have
all of the information from staff, and actually the staff's out today, so, and maybe Paul, you would know more than I do.
I see the chart in front of me, but
Okay.
details of that,
Okay, so we don't really have enough information to give you a really good update. We are gonna do some really fantastic things with it, though, I can just say.
So then,
75% of that's supposed to go to administrative costs. Where's that administrative cost going? Is that going to payroll? Is that going to infrastructure? Is that going to services?
That's why I think that I am not,
Okay.
I am not prepared to have that discussion today.
so then, I would say we'll, take that off the agenda.
And move it to next time?
month. Yes.
Wonderful, thank
Okay.
you so much.
You betcha.
And my apologies for not having.
You
All
have
right.
You have an entire county to run.
Don't remind her. Okay, on to public comments. So, and in the room, Marguerite.
So in my effort to get back on the bandwagon and learn about what's happened in the last 3 years since I was last on the board, I'm visiting and talking to some people that from agencies I either didn't know about before or who have started since I left. So this week I talked to Ethan McCulloch, who is the head, newish head of Hatcher, and was very interested in what he had to say. He, by the way, is interested in making a presentation to the board at some point or the SUV committee. He said that Monday they go out in the van in Arcata, Tuesday they go to the Samoa Bridge from 10 to 2, and they collaborate with public health on their work there. They're really into outreach. Wednesday they do mobile home deliveries, which are orders of everything from Narcan to hygiene products, to tents, to tarps, to sleeping bags. They're very much outreach to homeless people, but other people too. And Thursday, they're on A Street between 2nd and 3rd from 11 to 2, and work on their medicated assistance program, which is Suboxone and Methadone. And then Friday they do office work. So they're in the process of moving again. They're on Valley West, but they're in the process of moving again soon. I don't think they found their new home. He told me that they have grants from the California Overdose Grant, the state, medically assisted treatments, and the Office of AIDS. And right now they have about 10 people, and their staff tends to be people who have lived experience, and if you want to be a volunteer with them, most volunteers make the resource kits, which have like, soap and, shampoos and stuff. I told him I would report that I'd met him, or on the phone anyway, and just to make you more aware of that agency. Thank you.
Thank you. Yes.
Hello, my name is David again. I'm a resident of Arcata and a member of the Youth Advocacy Board, which is part of the Humboldt County Transition Age Youth Collaboration. As a young person who has experienced homelessness and faces behavioral health challenges, I urge the members of the board to please vote no on Prop 1. Its sunny, veteran-focused ad campaigns attempt to conceal dark truths. Prop 1's deepest flaw is its approach to behavioral health treatment. Its legislation would put billions of dollars towards building involuntary treatment facilities and move the state backwards in time. With the passage of Care Court and SB 43, the state has regressed to a focus on institutionalization and pathologizing homelessness. And now Prop 1 aims to create funding for the modern day equivalent of the sanitariums of decades past, supporting mass incarceration behind a falsely compassionate disguise. Prop 1's mask of treatment not tents willfully hides the fact that many homeless people would be forced into these locked facilities. Law enforcement can put someone on a 5150 hold if deemed a danger to themselves or others, and we're all aware of how the police tend to see non-existent threats in safe situations. Undoubtedly, Prop 1 would perpetuate systemic racism and violence by building more cages for the police to force people into. Our state's infrastructural problems cannot be solved by creating a mirror of the truly broken systems in question: prisons, jails, and policing. We cannot continue to support this out of sight, out of mind status quo mentality of Prop 1 that ignores the truth. If shoved into locked facilities on a 5150 hold, vulnerable people can be spat back out onto the streets after a short time, just like they would once they got out of jail. People's trauma would remain and even worsen. They would not be healed but harmed. If people aren't tossed back out into the street, they'd be sent to the psychiatric facilities that Prop 1 builds, which could lead to being placed in conservatorship. If placed into conservatorship, a person loses their right to decide how they want to recover and can even be forced to take medications that they don't want to. Prop 1 expands the state's ability to use court-ordered hospitalization and conservatorship by strengthening a program called Care Court. Unfortunately, the police are also involved in this system. The court-ordered response, according to Care Court's fact sheet, can be initiated by first responders. It says further that individuals exiting a short-term involuntary hospital hold or arrest may be especially good candidates, end quote. I shudder at the thought that I could have been forced into conservatorship myself had Prop 1 passed during my mental health crisis. Not only is it inhumane, but experts in the field agree that involuntary treatment has also proven to be ineffective compared to voluntary treatment. But we need this community-based support and prevention and early intervention services to keep more people from becoming unhoused. These are what the MHSA currently funds, what the evidence supports as being effective, and what Prop 1 would severely damage the MHSA money. For instance, while I was homeless living at Bennington Village, the stipends I received from HCTC for my advocacy work and training, the peer-led services at the Raven Project and TAY program that gave me a feeling of community. These local lifelines that kept me afloat are at risk of getting ripped away from other young people like me. Please don't let this happen. Vote no on Prop 1 and save lives. Thank you.
Thank you, David. Thank you. Anyone else in the room? Have a comment? We'll go to online. Any public comments? Sonia.
Hi, everyone. Sonia with HCTC, and I just wanted to announce, I think you all got an email with our flyer, but we have our digital story screening premiere. It's tomorrow, so this is great timing. It's from 3 to 5 in Arcata at the D Street neighborhood facility. And it's a great opportunity to come hear short stories from our young people with lived experience in the systems that we serve, and to hear how their experiences has impacted their lives and how we can be better advocates to lift youth voice and to make changes within our system for better outcomes for our TAY population. So backing up what David just shared and just an opportunity for you all to come hear more stories of our youth experiences, please try to attend. It should be a lot of learning and great opportunity to hear directly from our young people. Thank you.
Thank you. Is there any other public comment? Okay. None, we will move on to action items. Approval of minutes from the January 25th meeting. Do I have a motion? So,
Oh, we have to have a motion that I have comment about.
I'll make a motion.
I'll second your motion.
Is there discussion or corrections?
A couple of things. One, on communication, number 6. I am mentioned here under E, as reporting I'm a member of NAMI Humboldt and Prop 1 is on the ballot. I do recall saying that NAMI California supported Prop 1, which I think that was the information I wanted to convey. That comment last week or month.
Okay.
Is that okay to put that in there? Or,
and did you say it last week?
yeah, I did. I said that's kind of why I mentioned Prop 1. I just said Prop 1 is something that's supported by NAMI California.
Okay, so that correction.
You don't mind doing that. And there was another thing that I recall from the meeting that I thought, correct me if I'm wrong, but wasn't there a question about SB 43? Is it 43 that, yeah. No,
I mean, so I think that we can, that was mentioned in the meeting and not in a minute?
Yeah. Yeah, and the thing about this, I recall, we were asked, someone, I don't remember who, asked about a little update on implementation of that. And maybe it was you, Paul, you answered, somebody answered. And somebody asked me about this today, a member of the public. And I said, well, I think what I remember hearing was that the Board of Supervisors has agreed to postpone implementation, is that correct?
That's right.
That's what I thought I heard, and I thought that was important information, the public.
Would it
One
be?
person asked me about it anyway today, and
So I would say that we can, if we can make it
Yeah, I'll amend my motion to reflect the changes that were mentioned.
okay, the
I will
SB,
second your amendment.
And if you want to explain exactly how you do that. And how you want it said.
so, since we don't remember who said what about SB 43, I will say, let's just talk about that in this meeting.
okay.
But, creating the change for your, NAMI supporting Prop 1.
Yeah.
And then if we make that change, if we can then vote on approving them with that change, is that okay?
Sounds good.
I do have one more
Yes.
comment about a different item, in the minutes, under, topic 5, so, 5B, that letter to Cal Poly Humboldt that we discussed last meeting. The action follow-up says that it will be on the next behavioral health board agenda. It's not on this agenda, which is fine, but my recollection was that, it was going to come back, including a presentation from Cal Poly Humboldt to elaborate on what has been done and where the gaps still are, et cetera. So that was what I recalled, was that we were gonna have a guest, potentially invite Cal Poly Humboldt to be a guest to discuss it. But anyway, it's not on the agenda for today, so I think that, I don't know if we wanna amend the minutes or just note that in some other way that it'll be taken up at another time.
So at the executive committee, we are going to invite Cal Poly, we just didn't have that
Okay,
done for this meeting.
okay, so maybe, so I don't know whether striking it from the next, just the word next from the behavioral health board meeting makes sense, or?
So then a second amendment would be, the letter will not go to the BOS, will be on the agenda in a future VHP meeting.
Sure, at a future VHP meeting.
Okay.
I don't think minutes have to be absolutely every word correct, but I'm trying.
Yeah, but if someone was trying to follow that
Yeah.
issue and what happened with
Yeah,
it,
no.
they'd be like, wait, what, you know.
Now that one I understand. Some of them is like, if we go through and pick every one.
Yes.
that's
I
gotta
would,
make sense.
I don't know if we did it, but I would move that, to be an amended item. Did you move it over?
I moved this before we had, is there any other before I make a motion and amend my motion again?
Is your hand up?
Yes.
Okay.
So a comment about how, NAMI, yes, supports Prop 1. However, a lot of other folks oppose it. For instance,
So
That's not.
David, just so you know, this is, so we're in a motion
yes,
About the last meeting.
about the last meeting's
Last meeting.
minutes.
last meeting, okay. Sorry.
So, yeah, I don't mean to cut you off,
No, of
but I
course.
just want to stay focused on the protocol.
And we're actually having a presentation on Prop 1 on the agenda, and maybe that's a great time for you to, yeah.
So,
So my motion is to approve the amended minutes as amended. That's all I can-
I seconded or third that amendment.
all right. And now we may take the vote to approve those minutes with those changes. All in favor, say aye.
Aye.
Any opposed? Any stand asides?
I wanted to add a comment. Part of my experience about minutes is we normally don't record discussions, only action items. This is very valuable because it reminds us of the discussion. But my suggestion is if you want to discuss an item to be remembered, you can just say, I would like this noted in the minutes that we discussed this and talked about that. We were not a motion on it, but that helps the process, is to say, hey, can you put this in the minutes as a discussion item? That's all.
So the motion passed. to approve the minutes with these. Very good. And now, next on the agenda is communications. This is the time for behavioral health board members to share the stuff they want us to know about. And if it's okay, we'll just go around the room, starting with Alyssa. Yay, Alyssa.
I have nothing to report.
Okay, that's okay too.
Right.
Bernie.
I plead the fifth.
I wanted to say two things. One is we did another site visit the other day, and we went to Healthy Moms site. And two things, we're just supposed to look at the welcoming environment. How does it kind of work in that thing? But also by going there, learn a little bit about the program. And I wanted to say, that's one of the best buildings that we have, you know, in terms of how beautiful it looks, how it functions, where things are. If you want to see their playground and all those kind of things, I was just really impressed with that building. And I learned more about the program that I didn't know. So sometimes in the past, we would often do just a tour. We'd say, members of the board, would you like to take a tour to Semper Virens or something like that? And I guess that's, last time I did one, there was only two of us that showed up. But I guess I'm thinking about, since I'm learning a lot, you know, I'd never been to the K Center, and I was really impressed with that. And so, and I learned more about it. So those are thoughts I just wanted to throw out. The other thing is about the retreat. And I think I got responses from everyone except for one person, and except for those who might be working out that day or would have a medical conflict with that. And so virtually everyone wanted to do it on Saturday. Oscar did not want to because he works that day. And this always puts us into kind of a conundrum. But since the majority of the board wanted on Saturday, that's the day I'm going to choose. I guess I wanted to bring that up for discussion. I didn't know a better way to do this. And by the way, I feel like I've been trying to do this for 3 years. So that's an exaggeration because I think these are really important. But all right,
Can I bring
then
Oscar some food?
yes.
Yeah.
Were you asking me whether I'm going to bring the food?
No, we can. Some of us, I can.
No, I was thinking of getting scones and I'm gonna ask them whether they can make coffee there. But Natalie, I'll call you to sign you up for something. Okay. So an aquatic center, we'll get that out. I don't even know what the address is. It's a wonderful site, a wonderful.
And the beautiful building next to the auditorium.
There we go. I remember the first time I went there, I wandered around a while, but
The upstairs, probably.
I think it is upstairs. There's only a couple of meeting rooms, and it was easy. And I connected with Danielle, who is, I guess, in charge of it, and I sent a little thing to Connie, and Connie said, absolutely. So she greased the wheels on that, you know. I remember talking to Danielle, I said, well, Connie kind of said, oh, well, if Connie says it, you can have it, you know. So so that's set, and sent out some more information about it. As I said in the thing, it is a Brown Act. It is an official meeting. It's called a special meeting according to our bylaws. So there'll be time for public. The agenda is simply discussion and information. So that's my report.
Thank you very much.
You're welcome.
That together. Yay.
Couple of things. I just wanted to tell people today, I was looking at media online, and there's a really, on Cal Matters, if you ever look at that, there's a really good, like, succinct summary of the history of policy related to mental illness, mental health issues. And I would have printed it out, except unfortunately it's not obvious how to do that, but it's really good. I think it would be good for our, for the behavioral health board background information. So just one thing, and I'll try to print it out.
Maybe, I have a question, maybe a link can be sent, I don't know who to request.
Oh, you could email it to Joe and he
That's a
could
good
send it
idea.
to us.
Yes, all right, yeah, this was just in today's issue of Cal Matters, I think. was on the Lost Coast Outpost. So, and the other thing I was going to mention was the NAMI, we were invited to table at an event at Pine Hill School. So I will be there. And that's one thing we do is last year, I think we tabled at 6 or 7 different events with information about our resources, and which mainly are support groups for family members. That's a big thing we do. And educational materials about different mental health issues. So we have information. So we'll be there at Pine Hill. And just so you'll know that's happening, I've never heard of them doing anything like this before, but.
When is that?
Oh, sorry, it's March 20th.
Excellent.
And that's it for me.
Thank you.
It's like Vernon has.
This, I was referred to notify the board of any tabling events. This would be another opportunity to table at an event. That's one reason why I'm moving forward to try to start tabling at events. That proposal is up and coming.
Natalie?
Sure. Well, as you know, we have the crisis intervention team training coming up this next week. So that will be a week-long training that we have several members of the county attending from various departments, as well as others in the service provision and law enforcement communities. So really addressing training around crisis intervention. So that's really cool. I'm gonna sit in on as much of the training as possible. It's a big class. Moving forward, it looks like that'll be held hopefully twice a year is the intent. So that's a really great thing happening in our community next week. I've been attending First 5 playgroups. I'm also a First 5 commissioner, so it's a different hat. But I will say, if I was struck by talking with parents and caregivers about how powerful the playgroups are for their mental and like physical health, but especially just their sense of connection. Multiple people said it was a lifeline and that they were in a really dark place before they started connecting in that way. So that was interesting because I think about the services more for the kids. And it's like, wow, you know, parents came up and volunteered some very, very personal stories about what it's meant for them. So it's really powerful to hear that, and yeah, just very moving. I think that's all I have for right now.
Thank you. Virginia, don't have anything to report? Nothing? Not that I've been busy learning how to belly to plane. You have a new job. Okay, thanks. Sorry. I just want to report that Eureka Police Department is doing a free training, a 4-hour training called ASD 5150 and U, and it is autism spectrum disorder, 5150 holds, and Paul's going to give us a little update on SB 43. Those are held March 6th and March 13th. They're 4-hour sessions, so it'll be pretty intense, but if you want to know the latest and the greatest on how law enforcement deals with 5150s and clients who have ASD, and hear about what the county is doing with SB 43, let me know. I can email out a link to Joe that can email to everybody. So it's a free training. And we have Commander of France, Dr. Wendy White from Redwood Coast Regional, Jacob Rosen, City of Eureka Care, and Paul are all the presenters. So it's pretty, we have lots of ways to become informed. March 6th and March 13th. And I'll make sure that gets sent out. So there's a morning session and an afternoon session both days. And if there's nothing else, that concludes communications, and on to our presentation on Prop 1. That is up on the screen.
Hi, everyone. I'm Nancy Stark. I'm the Legislative and Policy Manager for Humboldt County's Department of Health and Human Services. I want to apologize. I intended to be there in person. Unfortunately, I have a pretty bad cold. So in the interest of public health and keeping you all healthy, I thought I'd better do this by Zoom. So my apologies for not being there with you. If you're all set, I'll go ahead and get started. We're going to talk about Proposition 1 today. All right, so as most of you know, last year, the legislature and the governor signed two bills, Senate Bill 326 and Assembly Bill 531. Together, those two bills are placing Prop 1 on the March 5th ballot. Prop 1 is a two-part measure that would change the Mental Health Services Act and create a $6.38 billion general obligation bond. So the bond, basically, the state wants voters' permission to borrow money to build voluntary and involuntary mental health and substance use disorder facilities. For those of us who may not be too familiar with bonds, a bond is basically like a credit card. The state pays it back over time plus interest. Prop 1 assumes the state will pay it back over a 30-year time period with payments of a little over $300 million each year. So under this estimate, the bond is estimated to cost about $9.3 billion to repay over those 30 years, not including the cost of inflation. So the most recent estimate that I saw put the total cost at a little over $10 billion, given the current interest rates. So for context, California spends about 2.5% of the state's budget to repay bonds that were previously approved by voters. There's likely going to be several more bond measures coming up on the November ballot, addressing things like climate change, wind energy, fentanyl. Those are the topics that I've seen so far. So let's break that bond down a little bit. Over on the right, in the green, almost half of the total bond, $2.9 billion, is meant for grants to build voluntary and involuntary behavioral health residential facilities. Facilities couldn't be things like short-term crisis stabilization facilities, acute care like sempervirens, crisis and community-based mental health residential facilities, residential units, substance use disorder residential facilities, community and other long-term locked treatment and rehabilitation options. Just going to move around the circle. The next little slice of that pie in red would be for grants specifically for counties, cities, and tribes to build voluntary and involuntary behavioral health residential facilities. 30 million of this slice is set aside for tribes. Just moving around to the yellow, about 1 billion is for loans or grants to build supportive housing for veterans with behavioral health needs who are experiencing or at risk of experiencing homelessness. And that last blue slice would be for loans or grants to develop supportive housing for people experiencing or at risk of homelessness with behavioral health challenges. So the state references the recent Behavioral Health Continuum Infrastructure Program as a model for how these bond funds could be distributed. Those are competitive grants, and they will depend on developers willing to apply for those grants and construct those facilities here. But that said, Humboldt has been relatively successful recently in securing those BHCIP grants. So let me give you a couple examples of that. This is Sorrel Leaf. Sorrel Leaf was awarded a BHCIP grant to build 12-bed crisis residential facility for youth and children ages 7 to 17. It's on Indianola Road, and that project is currently in construction. This would be an example of that first category in green of a voluntary crisis facility. An example of the second category might be the upcoming Crisis Triage Center. So the county partnered with Mad River Hospital, and we were successful in competing for a BHCIP grant to build a 43-bed crisis triage facility. It's going to be in Arcata on the Mad River Hospital campus. It'll have a sobering center and crisis residential beds for children, youth, and adults. And that project, exciting, should begin construction this year. Bayview Heights, across the street from the co-op in Eureka, that would be a local example of supportive housing for veterans. This was built by Danco in 2020. Arcata Bay Crossing, Pine Hill Village in Eureka, and River Bluffs in Rio Del would be examples of the final category. These offer permanent supportive housing to people with serious mental illness. There are 95 units specifically for this population in Humboldt County, and certainly more are needed. This one is River Bluff down in Rio Del. Okay, so importantly, the bonds are for buildings. Prop 1 does not increase funding for mental health or substance use disorder treatment or supportive services. So the county will continue to be responsible to ensure adequate funding for the upkeep, staffing, treatment, and services to house and keep people housed within existing funding. All right, so let's talk about the second part of Prop 1, and that's changes to the Mental Health Services Act. Most of you will recall back in 2024, California voters approved the Mental Health Services Act. It was Proposition 63. This was a voter initiative. It was led by people with lived experience. They collected around 400,000 signatures of voters to get it on the ballot. And it ultimately passed with about, I think it was about 55% of the vote. It's a 1% tax on the personal incomes of people with $1 million to provide increased funding for mental health services. There's about 80,000 people in the state of California who pay this tax. 95% of the funding goes to counties. There's a robust local stakeholder process to decide how best to spend the funding to support the local system of care. The state reviews that local plan and approves it for us. It can fund a wide variety of community-defined needs, including prevention, early intervention, and community-based care. It represents about 1/3 of the state's total public mental health services funding. So it is a significant chunk that we're talking about here. And everyone in Humboldt County benefits from MHSA. MHSA today has 5 main categories or goals of funding. 5% is set aside for innovation. 19% is set aside for prevention, early intervention. And that big bucket in dark blue on the side is kind of everything else: community services, any technology needs, or training of staff. And here's some of the programs and services that MHSA funds in Humboldt County today. You're going to recognize a lot of them. This isn't meant to be a comprehensive list. It's just meant to show kind of a broad range of community programs. We have a stakeholder process. You've all been a part of those stakeholder processes to decide how best to spend the funding here. And then we submit the plan to the state for approval. And the full plan is on the county's website. And shout out to Oliver, who does a lot of this work. All right, so how would Prop 1 change MHSA? First, I want to say that Prop 1 doesn't change the tax on millionaires. The tax is the same. What Prop 1 does do is redirect MHSA funding to address homelessness. Now, you could call it focusing funds on the most severe cases, people with mental health and substance use disorder who are experiencing homelessness. You may have heard the governor or others call it modernizing MHSA to direct the funds towards those most in need. However you phrase it, counties will need to spend 30% on housing interventions. It also changes the name of MHSA to the Behavioral Health Services Act. This is just to reflect substance use disorder in addition to mental health. It's not that we can't spend MHSA on people with substance use disorder needs today. We can, and we do. This is just specifies that we can spend MHSA on people with standalone substance use disorder who don't have a co-occurring severe mental illness. It also modifies how the MHSA funds are allocated, and there's lots of changes related to oversight, accountability, and the community planning process. So let's kind of delve into those details a little bit. First, counties would receive a smaller share of MHSA funding than they do today. The state would take 10% off the top instead of 5%. So it's overall less funding coming locally for treatment, prevention, and community-based care. Excuse me. All right. Next, it will require counties to direct 30% of local MHSA funding to housing interventions. Half of this bucket must be spent on people experiencing chronic homelessness. So by chronic homelessness, we mean have experienced homelessness at least 12 months out of the last 3 years. The next bucket requires counties to spend 35% of local MHSA funds on full service partnerships. In Humboldt County, we call this CCT, or Comprehensive Community Treatment. It's kind of that whatever it takes approach to mental health recovery. And that last slice, the remaining 35%, can be spent on workforce education and training, innovation, capital and facilities, and early intervention. Half of this bucket must be spent on early intervention programs, and half of that for people aged 25 or younger. Proposition 1 also eliminates the dedicated funding bucket for prevention. All right, so I want to just kind of show you this slide by slide. This is what this looks like. On the left is MHSA today, fairly flexible, able to be used in ways that we as a community define as important. 19% set aside for prevention efforts, 5% set aside for innovation. On the right is the new buckets under Prop 1 BHSA, trying to wrap my mouth around saying BHSA after 20 years of saying MHSA. So you can see it's much more prescriptive, 30% to housing interventions, 35% to full service partnership, leaving about 35% with some flexibility. And within that last bucket, as I mentioned, half must be spent on early intervention and half of that on people aged 25 or younger. And the state gets to kind of define their priorities for how we spend the early intervention funding. If Proposition 1 passes, these new buckets on the right will go into effect June 30th, 2026. There are some exceptions built in for small counties. So Prop 1 could provide some small county exemptions for populations under 200,000, including Humboldt. We would need to apply to the State Department of Healthcare Services for approval of any exceptions we would like to make. In addition, during the first 2 years of implementation, there's some flexibility to transfer certain percentages of funding between those 3 buckets. But we have no detail on that. So that flexibility is still kind of pending at the state, and we would need to apply for any flexibilities that we would be allowed to have. This is important for your board, also in SB 326 and not subject to voter approval. So whether Prop 1 passes or not, by January of next year, your behavioral health board must have 1 member aged 25 or younger and 1 employee of a local education agency on your board. So we'll talk more about how to prepare for that should Prop 1 pass. So last couple of slides. It's what's the housing units for people with mental health and/or substance use disorder needs. And, oh, am I okay? Can you hear me all right? Good? Okay, thank you. And we certainly need more beds, regardless of whether anything gets built in Humboldt. It would mean more beds available statewide. Also, the MHSA changes are going to mean less funding locally because the state's going to shave a larger proportion off the top. Most of the local MHSA funding will need to be spent supporting people experiencing homelessness with severe mental health or substance use disorders. This may mean that some other county services that are funded by MHSA can no longer be funded. It also shrinks the amount of funding available for local stakeholder input. There's just a lot less flexibility in how to spend the funding, so it's a much smaller pot of funding that that stakeholders will be able to have real input on. And with that, I'm going to stop sharing screen. We do have Oliver with us as well, who is our MHSA expert. So we're happy to answer any questions that you might have.
So many questions. Alyssa. So this makes me wonder about all of the current programs that are funded by the MHSA that were put up in like slide 3, including many of our favorites, and that do incredible things for the communities. Would there be any way to transfer those services to the new funding, in some way integrate them, so that not only do we not lose those services, but we don't lose the individuals who are employed by those services and the individuals that are helped by those services in the new setup, or are we going to lose those services entirely?
It's a really good question. I think part of it, as kind of Nancy mentioned in the presentation, is the uncertainty in current language. One of the things about Prop 1 is a couple of administrative components going to play January 2025, with the bigger core things going live June 30th, 2026. With that said, in January 2025, we should have a lot of cleanup language, as the state calls it, where they're going to be more specific as to what some of these changes entail. And hopefully with that cleanup language, we'll have enough detail to be able to preserve as much as possible these programs, especially with the prevention piece being gone now.
Yeah, because prevention is what funds a lot of those current programs that are happening. They're PEI, aren't they? So like with their main funding source being gone, we're just looking at otherwise just losing all the prevention programs.
I think so PEI is prevention and early intervention, and so
Right.
that's kind of a broad category, and some of that work can still fall into early intervention.
Okay.
I think that like we've been looking obviously at how that MHSA is currently being spent, and we do have a fair amount that is being spent on housing already, so that's helpful for our community. It will become more restrictive, even the housing category, in terms of how, like, can we pay for a hotel for somebody and have that count as housing under MHSA? I don't think so. And so that part is really difficult because it doesn't allow us to be as responsive to our community as we want to be or need to be. But in terms of those programs like that we all really value and worry about, I think there's more to come in terms of exactly what the impact will be. I think some of those we will be able to continue under the changed structure. And there may be others that we're looking at, but we'll have lead time, as Oliver is saying, to really say, okay, what's at risk and how can we kind of respond to that in a way that's most supportive to the community.
Right, like when I'm thinking of it, I'm like seeing like the individuals at the Hope Center and the Hope Center itself being integrated into a supported living environment. And provides, kind of like an integrated care system or something like that, just something to keep them alive.
Yeah, I think you're right. I think Hope Center is hugely valued. And so what are the strategies to continue that important work, given some of the changes that are coming? And there likely will be some things that have to go away. And that's the challenge with Prop 1. That's what's really hard about it.
Thank you.
Yeah.
Now, as a perennial advocate for substance abuse stuff, I'm happy that substance abuse will get more money and more housing and those kind of things. But I don't like the rob Peter to pay Paul kind of aspect of all this, which I'm sure everybody else kind of feels like too. But one concern I really have is that in the substance abusing population, there are people who are like dual diagnosis, and then there are people who are not dual diagnosis. And so I think there's gonna be a huge staffing challenge and a programmatic construction challenge because of some of those kind of things. If this, passes as it is. I know most counties are gonna take a tremendous amount of time and effort to try to figure all this out. But I'm hoping that since most counties really have reserved rightly most of the money for mental health clients versus substance using clients, I'm hoping that it can be somehow integrated that the substance abusing ones will not miss out, because there really is a population that is not dual. And it's kind of significant, or they say they're not dual, sometimes they are dual, but like that.
Yeah, I mean, I think that what you're saying also kind of bumps up against the challenges with SB 43, where we're being tasked with treating SUD as standalone in certain circumstances, and seeing the lack of resources statewide and nationwide really for that population. And so there is a huge gap and a huge need to build out more services for that population, given Prop 1 and also SB 43. So just agreeing, recognizing that there's a need there.
Natalie? I'm concerned about the competitive grants that will come from this. I know we've been competitive and done well with some grants, and I'm sure our team will continue to focus on this, but is there any hint around the implementing guidance so far as, with respect to whether that's just gonna really be prioritized based on population, or, I'm wondering how rural or more rural communities will have a bite at the grant fund apple. I know that's often a challenge.
It's a really good question. I personally haven't seen any guidelines or criteria that the state's going to be utilizing. Out of curiosity, Nancy, have you seen any of those details so far come through?
No, we've only heard in the legislative hearings on the bills that they'd like it to look like BHSIP. And again, it does require that developers are willing to apply and build here. And again, the bond is for facilities. This doesn't expand treatment. I'm sorry, the sound has kind of gone out. Other people on audio have lost audio on Zoom.
So the question was about whether the funding can be used for rehab of existing facilities, or whether this, capital improvement funding really needs to be new facilities.
Yeah, so if they design it like BHSIP, absolutely it can be rehab of existing facilities, but it would need to be an expansion of beds. So in other words, we would not be competitive if we applied to rehab sempervirens, if we were not adding additional beds.
Teresa, can you hear?
I just heard something.
Okay.
Yes, now I hear you.
Okay. Thanks, sorry. Not sure what's up, but everybody project.
Yeah.
I guess if you're
the quiet people.
Yeah, if you're in the back row, come up closer to talk, but, Alyssa, and then Tim.
Thank you. It brought up a lot of really good points. But I wanted to also ask that you made me think about, as we're expanding facilities, like creating the Mad River Crisis Triage Center, is that gonna take over for sempervirens? Are we going to lose facilities as services go into new facilities?
No, and just to be sure if you're asking this, but that crisis triage center at Mad River isn't MHSA funded.
Okay,
That's separate.
different
And-
one.
Yeah, and no, the intent is to broaden our system of care, not to take away.
Okay, awesome, thank you.
Tim.
Yes, I wanted to share an overall view of this, and I think I shared with Andy this. These are incredible amount of major changes going on that started with AOT. If some of you remember coming to the Board of Soups and the board here and others discussing and arm wrestling about the use of that money and still evaluating that to see how that's going. And then we have these other things coming on and questions about every single one. The care court, how will that work? SB 43, how will that work? How will we implement it? And we have a new treatment facility coming on board. How will we work with that? How will we work? And then I guess I'm bringing this up to give a lot of support to our staff and a lot of understanding that these questions of I don't know will continue. State income budget is going down. Is the county's facing a budget crisis? That's what I read in the paper. Do we have staff shortage? When I went to Healthy Moms, they said, yeah, we have half the staff. You know, you understand what I guess I was trying to say in general is that I feel like right now, when I've been on the board in the past, we can zero in and focus on how is this working? You know, the work going on at the jail or something like that, you know. But now it's gonna be, I don't know, like war. That's probably not the right way to say it, but it will be incredibly difficult, challenging for Connie and Emmy and other directors. And we'll be learning as we go along. And so that's what I wanted to say.
So will we.
I know.
All learning together.
We should hire you both a new administrative assistant. What do you think? Or social secretary. I don't know what you really
Can I comment on that? Thank you very much for saying that, Tim, because I think you're really calling out what's kind of the truth of what's happening, which is there's so many things rolling out right now, and we don't have all the answers or all the ways to figure it out. And kind of to your question about SB 43, yes, we requested and got approved delayed implementation for 2 years, which feels like tomorrow, which is one of the ways that we can then attend to these other things that are happening at the same time, like Prop 1, Care Corps, you know, we're doing regular meetings for that. But I do think just the request for giving one another grace as we do all these things is really important, because we are gonna have places where we fall short, or we don't get it quite right, or we're, you know, trying to take money from here to put it over here because that's the only resource we have, and it's going to be impactful on the community, and people are going to say, well, why aren't you funding this anymore? And so just keeping in mind that broader landscape that we're facing right now, and that we're doing our best to continue all things that are important for the community, and there are going to be places where it feels like it's not enough. You know, so thank you for lifting that up.
I think I left out the triage center in that list of things.
Yeah, that concerns me, because that's gonna take Mad River out of our community and the services that we receive from Mad River, right? As a hospital, no, it's not.
Their hospital will remain the same. This is an additional service. So they're gonna build out the Behavioral Health Crisis Triage Center through the grant. That's not anything to do with their hospital, which will continue. And then we, County Behavioral Health, will contract for services on that site. But that's separate than their medical services that they will continue.
And actually, what Nancy outlined, with where the services are gonna go for the VHSA, and that's actually what we've been asking, a lot of it. It's kind of like, it's just that we have to give up things to get it.
Nobody else do that.
All right, one last comment, Tim.
Oh, staffing is a challenge, not just because of money, right? It's, you have the money, but you're not sure people want their job. So we're gonna be looking for more jobs, right? So Cal Poly come through. So I just want to throw in one more bird in the saddle. I don't know, like metaphor is.
Thank you. All right, we are going to, Nancy's son, oh, Laurel. Laurel.
I just wanted to share that some people were straight up dropped from Zoom, not everybody was, so not clear on what technical issue it is.
Good point.
But like our guest from Cal BHC, et cetera, she may have not left intentionally, just an FYI. And I don't know how to fix it when it's not a drop everyone issue.
Okay.
That's your job.
Maybe there's an update.
Wait, the director's leaving.
I have to leave.
On the way out, just give us a quick report.
I actually let Emmy and Laurel know what I would have said, and that is the lease for the navigation center is completed, has been for some time. There were some issues around the insurance, and that has been fixed now too. I am waiting for a timeline for when we'll do groundbreaking and when more of the work will get started. So, more to come on that.
We look forward to that timeline.
We do.
I know, we all do. Thank you so much.
And the trusses are being put on the adult crisis residential facility today. When I drove by, the trusses were being put on the roof.
Nice.
That's right.
That's cool.
That'll work.
Right.
All right. So I'm not sure what happened. I wanted to thank Nancy for presenting even though she was sick. So let the minutes know gratitude.
Yeah.
She's a trooper.
Laura, where is the adult crisis resolution?
M and
Sixth and M, yep, and they just finished demolition and now they're doing the build out. Oh, cool. Yeah, so drive by and see it.
yeah. All right. Yep, make sure we thank Nancy. Discussion items, annual form 700 due on April 2nd. The forms are up here. We are moving the behavioral health bridge housing to next month. DHH reports, director, is there anything else that she wanted?
She said the two things she sent to me, so I think.
That's good. All right, then on to
me. I was gonna just like circle back on a few of the things that were lifted up. And we just talked about crisis residential treatment facility trusses are on. I think May is the potential opening date, so fingers crossed, we'll just see how, if there's any other delays, but that's the intent. Jack can correct me if that's wrong. SB 43 postponed, and because I just wanted to answer that question, and we've already talked about that. And there is, related to care court, there are now regular meetings that are happening. Paul, myself, Connie, our county council, the courts, the public defender, there's a group of us now regularly coming together to just talk about what is this gonna look like locally and how do we create infrastructure around that. I wanted to say to this group that the bylaws which were discussed previously, I want to just take some responsibility because when they came back to us to go to Board of Supervisors, I had a county council who hadn't previously reviewed because she wasn't assigned, look at them and say, oh shoot, there's some other things I think need to be addressed. And so she made those changes. I looked at them, I'm gonna send them back to the exec committee and then hopefully they'll come back to this board, and I'm super sorry for that, again, delay on that
Can we
document.
have another cake?
I don't know, I feel like I jinxed it.
Did you say a cake? I missed the cake.
You did.
missed the cake,
That's
yeah.
probably why that happened. What else? I really appreciate, Natalie, your comment about the first 5 groups. I just was thinking, like, I just have such passion for the littles, and your comment about, I thought it was for the kids, not for the parents, made me think about, like, it's about relationship, right? Like the dyad. And so when the parents are engaged and responsive because they're feeling supported, then that's the healthy engagement with the kid. But anyway, like, I'm just preaching to the choir here, but I'm so glad you lifted that up because that's such an important piece of our work. That's the early intervention. That's the prevention piece that really improves our community overall. So I just wanted to say that. And then on the other end of things, I thought I would just mention, Paul and I have a meeting today. It's called Joint Conference Committee, and it's about how we govern, the governing body for Semper Virens. And we have a couple Board of Supervisors who participate in that. And we're based on some recent audits and reviews. We're looking at making some changes to the structure around that and potentially developing some bylaws. And then we'll share more as that continues. But I think it's just like, that's the other end of the continuum. Like here we have this prevention work with littles, and then we have the other end where we're really treating people with severe mental illness and working very, very hard within our system to create support and structure and compliance for running a facility like that, that's supported by the states and the feds. And so it's just a lot of work, and I think it's important work. And so I wanted to say that out loud to this group too. I think that's all, unless there's questions.
My guess is the 2 of you didn't go to school to do that kind of thing.
School health.
Yeah, for sure.
I mean, you guys were program people. You were program people.
Well, that's a good way to start.
That's right.
With really big hearts.
What?
With really big hearts.
Oh,
Yeah.
yes.
Yeah, it's all part of the job. And I'm so grateful to have the experts that we have on our teams to help with that work, so.
Paul, did you have anything?
I don't think so. Yeah, just, there's a lot, happening on the justice involved front as well. A lot of new initiatives today, like for the first time in a while, I felt like I came to work and I was drinking from a fire hose. There's all this recent information that is coming and the deadlines that are so fast, so. But there's a lot happening there, and the great thing though is that we have structures and relationships already established, and we're really leveraging those now as we're moving forward, in this dynamic environment, so that's good. And we mentioned the Joint Conference Committee of Separate Environments with the California Department of Health accepted our corrective action plan for separate environments, so we're taking care of that. And we're, yeah, I think that's it. So the mobile crisis benefit is moving forward as well. So that's really trying to upstream on the crisis front in the community. I'm trying to get to folks before they get to a place where they, are on a hold in an emergency department. So we're developing our teams and the trainings and the processes and procedures for that. So there's a lot of coordination, a lot of moving parts with that. So that's moving forward, and we're excited about that.
Kind of make sure to keep up on that. That's good stuff for us to all know about. Yeah. Thank you. AOT update, Jackie Jack. I don't know why I said that. So sorry.
Hello, everybody. Yeah, AOT continues on and doing good work, positive work. We actually had our first graduate from the court side of things. Somebody had been engaged in treatment and fulfilled their treatment plan, and the court decided that they no longer needed that level of oversight and supervision, and so the court graduated that individual. They're still involved with EA for right now, and then we'll work together on a transition to county behavioral health here probably shortly, but thought that was good news and good work on their end. So yeah, we're working with the folks in our community and accepting referrals and getting them over to EA when we have availability, and it's going well.
And so is the number staying at 10?
Yeah.
Okay. Thank you. SUD committee update. Marguerite, do you want to say anything? You don't have to.
So Laura officially ran the meeting since I'm not officially on the board, but actually I ran the meeting. So yeah, it was a good meeting. We were trying, I think, at this meeting to just get a sense of what people wanted to do and how we could best help and inform the larger board about, needs and et cetera for the whole SUD field. So we wound up assigning people who came to that meeting to come back to the meeting next month with various things that we kind of didn't know. Leftovers, when that committee kind of grinded to a halt, unnecessarily, but it just happened that way. There were a lot of Tay things going on, and so Calla said she would talk to Kelsey and other staff and find out what kind of happened, because we were working on that 3 years ago, but then it kind of stalled with the pandemic and all, and staff changes. And then somebody else was going to talk some more about SB 53 preparations. We were going to talk about upgrading things to later required standards and gaps in treatment. And I was asked, and I'm going next Tuesday to find out from Aegis how they're managing to give their services to youth, because it's always a challenge to do certainly that kind of service, but really any kind of service to youth, and have it be youth-centered and not just a carbon copy of what everybody else who's older is doing. So I have an appointment, Eric's going with me next Tuesday to go to Aegis and talk about that. So I'm hoping we're hoping at the future meetings that we'll get kind of some direction from this and then kind of work on things to bring back ideas and or projects to the main board. So happy to be there.
Thank you, and I'm very happy that you're there. Thank you.
Oh, and we still need an official, board member to be the head of that committee. Okay, it's not gonna be me yet. I'll run next meeting, but not after that.
I'm really glad that you're helping us with that.
Yeah.
All right.
I'm enjoying it and I'm glad I'm back home.
And can I just ask, what is how do we get you on the board? What's the process? We're working on that?
Yeah.
Okay.
And you
I was like,
get
oh my God.
you get the final,
One job, Natalie.
and you get the final say now.
That's
too,
right.
so just saying.
The last two meetings, I'm like, wow.
It's the background check,
Yeah.
Homeland
That
Security.
is.
There we
Actually, I
go,
think the hardest
Virginia.
thing is to get it on the agenda of the board. Because there's
Oh,
so many
I've had
things
enough
on
of
the
background checks lately.
Oh, I'll bet.
All right, bringing it back. So committees, ad hocs, right now, Kat's not here. That is still going to be moving forward. Do you have something, Vernon?
I would like to re-engage or rethink if anyone would like to assist with me of doing a facilities go through at the Hope Center, and I'd like to do an ad hoc committee doing that. So if anyone would like to show any interest of doing an ad hoc committee for the Hope Center, please let me know.
What would the ad hoc committee be doing?
We will be reviewing the expenditures of the Hope Center, where they've come from, where they're at, and where they're going or wanting to go in services and where the money's coming from to support that.
So anybody's interested, reach out to you. You'll fill out the ad hoc form and bring it to the executive committee or send it to us.
Yes, if anyone shows interest, I will definitely do that. We'll type that up and present that to the executive committee.
Awesome. I think that's all we have for committees at this point. We're gonna have a retreat, and vice chair, what do you have? Anything?
About the retreat, several of our members have left for a variety of different reasons. So we have 4 new names be setting up those interviews right away. And some of you remember, who are still here when I was the chair, that I thought it's really important. We have so many new people to understand how we work, who we are, what we do. Never heard of TAVE, never heard of the Hope Center, never heard of all these things. It's hard to do our job. So I'm wanting to do more presentation, education, and that will be our 4 new people. That's all.
Debbie?
Do people get these binders still, new people?
Yes, Natalie almost has hers.
Okay, yeah.
You will get a new bylaws
Okay.
by the 4th of July. That's the plan.
Oh, don't say that.
Don't jinx it.
Okay. I do have that
He
policy.
didn't say what year.
So in response to the thing about the retreat though, I got my Oscars mixed up, so I'll bring you snacks at work, sorry. Snacks at work. We were saying that we're gonna do it on Saturday, but I think that was unfortunately the day that you couldn't go.
Sorry about that.
Yeah,
Do a snack drop.
Everyone else needed to do it on Saturday.
oh, really?
Yeah.
Hey, will it be like,
Okay,
you do a follow-up?
yeah. we can follow up. So I guess what I want to say is, again, reiterating, so we had Cal BHP here, and it looks like they're gone. made me super nervous. Cause I'm like, oh no, now I'm gonna reach out to Teresa and say, how did we do? But I do want to reiterate that when I went to the training and seeing other behavioral health boards and how they operate and the lack of working together with their directors, made me feel really good and really proud. So I'm just gonna keep saying that. Yes, we can do things better. Any of us, all of us can, but we have a really great group that we get to work with, and they are working hard. And when you talk about the fire hose, sometimes I hold you, Emmy, Connie, and Paul up all the time because I cannot, my brain cannot even fathom what you go through. And I'm like, oh, I just hope you're all okay. Take care of yourself personally, because if we lose any of you, we are oh, literally, right?
No jinx.
Yeah.
Yeah. All right, that's all I have to say. Just my appreciation and gratitude. Moving on to unfinished business. So navigation center, care court, pretty much that was touched on. I don't know if there's any recap. Anything else? Okay. Then future items. So we have to hear from Cal Poly, student mental health. Are there any other future items people want?
The one we were supposed to hear from today, will
Oh,
that
the
be next
bridge.
month, or will that be?
We'll have to
Do you
follow up.
know
any
where that may be located?
Bridge housing. I don't know. Yeah. Bridge housing. So in executive committee, we look at all the things that we've talked about and then see who's available to give presentations. Sometimes it's a juggle, so.
And let us know if you particularly want a presentation.
On something. And I don't know whoever looks at the back of these minutes, if you want to know what HCTC is or CCT or CBHDA, it's all here. And I know it's kind of like boggles your brain, but you know, the OTP, the offender treatment program. There's so many things. Bored some afternoon, pick a page, put your finger on it, and then Google it. Google it, right, Tim?
Yes, Google it.
And
What's the
then-
right term now, Laura?
Oh,
Okay.
no, I just, Google's a funny word to me.
Like
Yeah.
web search is less, less of
Proprietary.
a corporate entity.
Good. Web search.
Who does this? Who fixes this? Who does this?
Excuse me, the gentleman who talked about the Humboldt program with the 10 people in it.
Yeah.
At one point, he said, they're gonna go to EA, but it isn't on here.
It
Is
is
that
not.
emergency assistance, or what is EA?
EA Family Services is the group that provides the counseling therapy, that it's administered by the county, but they are subcontracted by the county to run the AOT program.
What is EA? Oh, that's the
It
name of the.
used to stand for something and it doesn't anymore.
Right.
Back in the past, it
Oh,
was
oh.
environmental alternatives.
I remember that
Oh,
now.
by-
Change the name.
But their EA stands for nothing.
It's
Okay.
EA Family Services. That's, there are an org provider with us.
Yes,
that-
I
that-
remember.
not
I
an
forgot the
active
name.
AOT.
Thank you.
I'd like to
Yes.
suggest that they're named Excellent Awesome Family Services.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Say that to them.
Yeah.
Well, I did want to say that, EA Family Services, so that person that graduated is still receiving like CalAIM services through EA, which is separate from the AOT branch of what they're doing. And it made me think that, like we should really celebrate, the AOT team having their first graduate. I think that was really awesome to hear. Like I'm really, really happy to hear that, Jack, from you and your team. Like where could we like move that forward is what I thought when I heard that. And I thought of like employment, like these people are gonna have a harder time entering the workforce. So if there's like something that we could do as a board
to say, like, partner with like a group like College of the Redwoods and say, hey, like, sponsor the graduates or something like that to give them a leg up in their successes. So just like brainstorming, thinking, maybe we could talk about that at the next board meeting. Maybe between now and then, we could think about ways we can continue to support those graduates. I'd like them to continue to feel supported in our community and accepted and offered opportunities. So I just wanted to voice that to the board in case anyone else had any other thoughts about what happens next from these graduates, right? Who are, now just moving on to, getting help with, maybe receiving a social security card or getting on benefits or whatever it may be.
Toby did his master's degree, dissertation, Toby, on supportive housing. And I remember that's an incredible help in recovery.
I also know that Department of Rehabilitation does a lot of great services for integration of individuals living with disabilities in the community, even paying for school.
Yeah, that'd be great. Yeah, Jack, maybe if you've heard any of these resources in the community before, if you've already thought about how to connect them to some of that, that might be worth sharing.
Laura, may I add one too? Just one more resource out there. I know there are many, but got to give a little shout out to the city of Eureka, the Pathway to Payday program, which works with folks who have, for whatever reason, not been employed for a while. That's often the community, but not entirely. Which is a really cool program to have employers who are already looking for employees kind of sit down, do interviews and provide some feedback, but there's an almost guaranteed job at the end of that program, it seems like, so. It's a cool program, yeah.
Yeah, they also have the co-pilot program, which I've referred many people to. Somebody who's unhoused just needs to meet once a week with somebody to help them kind of get on board. There's a lot of resources. We provide a lot of resources. Sometimes it's hard to find them, but the more we know and share, the better off.
Navigation.
All the things.
Just in case Jack wanted to respond, I saw maybe he unmuted there for a second.
Yeah, well, I think that sounds like a really good thought. I haven't really talked with EA about, sort of the next steps for this individual, only had heard about it over email through county council. So, we definitely will follow up with them about sort of what we can do to sort of highlight that for that individual. But I do know that all of our folks get, case management and link to any and all services for which they are eligible for. And if they express an interest in some program or another, that we would help facilitate that, currently. So.
Thanks, Jack.
Thank you. There are no other future agenda items, questions, then I'm so excited to adjourn this meeting. Got anything, anyone? Not that I don't love you all, but I like being out early.
Efficiency.
Yes. Thank you, everyone.
I received a phone call.
I'm
Third at 9. I'm getting home.
Okay.
I might be able to do that. Where is he?
Yeah, thanks for letting me know. That's great.
Didn't you?
Tell me
Yeah, it's in your.
Since it is the very first edition, I'm.
It's down the road.